Good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. We are here for part two of this journey that we're not sure how many parts it's going to be yet, because we're letting Claude help guide a build out of a data model from scratch in HubSpot. If you're with us last week, we talked about a lot of the details behind Value First and Value First platform and configuration over customization and how we can collaborate with AI to get some of this stuff done while not expecting it to do all of it. Showed a lot of documentation that we prepared, but if you missed last week and you watch us now and are interested in seeing that, you can find that on LinkedIn. And we've got a new team member added to the project since last week, Riley, who has watched the recording. How are you folks doing today? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Indeed. While I align with Riley, Ryan, we discovered last week we have to set up the sandbox still in HubSpot, which is not something magical that we can expect AI to do yet. At least from the Claude MCP perspective. Maybe we can get some help from Comet, the AI browser. So I'm gonna share Ryan's screen and Riley, what did you learn? What questions do you have after watching the recording?
No questions. The recording was great. I was wanting to be on it, but then we went to vacation, and so I was just listening in while I had kids screaming in the back seat, and felt like it was better for me to be an observer than a participant that week. But I think I'm really excited to see where this goes. I think y'all did a great job of setting up like the data foundation. I'm very curious who all would have that level of foundational, like how long it would take to compile that. Like if someone today was going to start doing this, and they had nothing except an idea, what would it take to compile all of the data that it took to get here? Because I feel like you've been working on this inside of Claude using your project models for 2 or 3 months, maybe more, and storing all of this, creating pillars, creating frameworks, creating structure. And so, I want to just acknowledge that to the user here, that this isn't like, hey, this is day 3 and we're already setting up HubSpot. Like it only works because of the mountains and mountains of data that we have already discussed with Claude and set up and shared and iterated on and improved.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. It's probably maybe like almost 20 years in the making, experience-wise. Just because a lot of what Value First is about is trying to avoid all of the traps that I've experienced in my career, going back to when I was king of the spreadsheets and like thought I had everything perfect and didn't need any kind of databases or CRM systems or anything, because I knew where to find the templates of the spreadsheets and I just go copy it and change everything. And could anybody like be handed off that process? No, but it was fine because I was healthy and like nothing was going to happen to me. So, build the process out for one person. So that's where it started. But then recently, after coming into consulting, into SaaS, like from being in-house, right? A lot of that experience about how the SaaS approach of like, let's find quick wins, let's try to point solution everything to death. It's just not working, folks. Like if you get 50% adoption rates, like there's no part of that that's like winning, and it's never gotten better. So I've been excited to partner with Claude on a lot of this stuff, starting from a place of, hey, what would an organization look like if sales and marketing and all the business infrastructure we know about didn't exist? Like what would start from scratch? And that's how Value First started. So it's been 8 months in the making as far as like this framework. And now it's applying and kind of putting all that together to get to a point where hopefully very soon it can be day 3, day 4, day 5 for somebody. Because a lot of the goal here is trying to find a way to standardize, right?
Yeah.
In that a lot of these usage problems and adoption problems and integration problems, I've learned acutely over the last year, everybody's go-to is like workarounds, just because the systems are so bad at talking to each other. We haven't had AI, we haven't had MCP. We've just had a bunch of different people working out of silos, and they know what works for them in their situation. That's usually what they bring to the project. So I'm very interested to try this model of bringing knowledge together. We all have different backgrounds. We have different folks on what we want to help with in HubSpot. Even the ability to capture data and capture knowledge documents in a different kind of way, things that often get left behind, now we can create really quickly. And yeah, so thanks for calling that out. But our goal is to help people get to this spot like real quick, because if we start to design everything for the customer journey, most customers, no matter what business, no matter what industry, B2B, B2C, whatever, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want their expectations met.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And that might look different internally for most businesses, but externally, what customers want to see, when they want to see it, when they want to be communicated with, like, turns out to be very, very similar across the landscape.
Yeah. And I think the time that it took to build out this, let's call it, Claude project knowledge base, isn't really indicative of what everyone's experience will be like. And I think that's actually the goal, is that this Value First framework can be something that, even if you haven't built out mountains of saved project chats and what are they called? Artifacts and all of this and a lot of structure, that if you do decide that you want to do that, that the system knows the model, knows what to prompt you for to put the data in the way that it needs in order for you to be able to do that. So that it's not so much of building it on a like blank foundation, but it's actually almost like a templatized, like, oh, okay, you're wanting to do something like this. Well, here's a library of possible objects, properties, things like that. Let's figure out which ones you want to work with, which ones you don't. And then it can kind of put your ideas in that place as it's talking with you and developing.
Indeed. And I'll show that I'll bring up the Claude project in a moment, just to refresh people. But Ryan, tell us what's happened so far.
Oh man, it struggled. Yeah, I'm using Comet. It's the new browser by Perplexity, and I've enjoyed using it. Today I started on kind of the homepage of HubSpot, and I asked it to find or to navigate to our sandbox or to create a sandbox, and it was just interesting because it's not necessarily the easiest thing to find. You have to know where the sandbox admin page is to create one or to navigate to one. But essentially it started in the top right hand corner of where your account settings are, or like your profile settings, and it saw the word account, and then it saw the list of accounts that I'm currently subscribed to, and it ended up finding an account with the word sandbox on it. So it immediately took me the wrong place. I didn't give it the best instructions. But so what I ended up just doing is I navigated to the page. Then I asked it to click the button, go ahead and create the sandbox. It took me to the next page. Then it prompted me, well, what do you want the sandbox to be named? So I'd say overall rough start, because, I could have done all of those things a lot quicker than the assistant. And I guess the pattern that I'm seeing in my own playing around with the tool is these like button clicky things that you know how to do are great. Just do them yourself manually. But a lot of the data entry tasks, like an example that I can give is I needed to create multiple properties on an object. I was able to provide, a schema of what I wanted my properties to be. It's like 5 to 10 properties. And it actually went and created all of those for me, like in sequence using the assistant. And I was able to go make a coffee or do something else with my time, right? Read an email, respond, and check back in on the progress. Other examples were like, I wanted to create test records in my sandbox. And so I instructed it to open up the contact creation page and fill out the fields and create another. So those are other better examples. This one, not the best, but I guess that's why we're here, figuring out where's that line. Where do we want the AI to help, and where do we want our expertise to just, lead the path?
Right.
I have a request. It might be impossible to actually do, but just something I'd like to do from the beginning, if we can. A counter of how many times a human has to click within the HubSpot interface to do a thing.
Okay.
So I would say I'm probably at, that was 3. So from like homepage to, the now created sandbox, I had to interfere 3 times.
Okay. I just want to have like a running total of like be able to show this is what was built, and a human being only had to click inside of HubSpot 30 times or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty.
This is a really good point to just talk, like take a pause. Like this sandbox beta that we're looking at is brand new to HubSpot, and I've actually never played around with this new version. I really pride myself on the fact that I do a lot of my builds in Sandbox first, working one-on-one with my clients, talking about their processes, talking about how to model and formulate like the structure of their account. And we do all of that in sandboxes. And up until recently, sandboxes where you would build in Sandbox, you'd test, validate, get buy-in on everything, and then we'd rebuild into production. But HubSpot has released a concept of a deployment from Sandbox to production, eliminating the need to like rebuild objects, properties, workflows. I don't know the full list. I imagine it's very powerful, but I also imagine there are some limitations and some kind of gotchas of what is and what is not possible here. Has anyone here been able to set up a deploy on their accounts?
I have not done one yet, but I've got one that I was working on that I think is finally like a very interesting and compelling use case for like having users in your sandbox. Because to me, that was always such a problem with Sandbox was we had to get the users in there because they wouldn't pull over when you created them. But then it wasn't really anything for them to do unless it was testing, in which case, you can log in as user, et cetera. But I think if you can deploy the users as well, then that's like an actual very meaningful case of like creating the users in there so you can do full testing. Because a lot of the testing that I would do in Sandbox, I would just kind of go up until user specific views and permissions, and then I would just do that in production because it was so frustrating and complicated to have to rebuild all of that in Sandbox. And then people are confused about, am I in production? Am I in Sandbox? Like it just opened a lot of weird doors that I think now it's not going to do.
Yeah. And something to keep in mind that I've just experienced in another portal is only available at enterprise level. So if you're pro only and aren't ready to upgrade your whole platform to enterprise, this is not one of those things that you can just upgrade one seat or to get the access. So just know that you need enterprise.
I didn't know that.
To do this.
What's gated behind that?
Yes, I did not know that either until I experienced it this week. So I won't go into that.
Could you restate that? So like I thought like, so you can't just buy one enterprise seat and get this, you need the whole account to be enterprise.
Yeah. So like previously, I've always thought about it of like, as long as I have one hub enterprise, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, I have all enterprise, for the most part, functionality. This seems
Yeah.
like it's gated behind all hubs have to all have enterprise.
Well, it has to do with the cost and price too. Like,
Yeah.
so basically, if you have so the platform discount of customer platform is significant if
Mhm.
you have all the hubs. And just sharing my story, like at that point, you're getting all the hubs at professional level, like for a certain price. You go look at the pricing page, and this is what I did. It's like, oh, I think I can just get one service hub seat at my one service hub seat, upgrade it to enterprise, $50 difference per month. And then I should have access to the sandbox. You look at the page and it says like sandbox, right? And it didn't work. So, and I did not accept the first response that I got, but the explanation for why it wasn't able to work made sense to me, because it has to do with the way this functionality of a sandbox is unlocked, like has nothing to do with the seats.
Mhm.
So like yeah. I don't know. So it's still frustrating, obviously. And this is part of what there's a lot of frustrations about in the HubSpot ecosystem right now is we got licenses and seats and now credits.
And tiers and credits.
And it's been very hard as a partner and consultant to know like what the answer is going to be, which is the most frustrating part at the end of the day. So I can't wait until everything's usage based, and then we'll be good. But might be ways away. Might not be though. So we'll see. All right. So Ryan's going to continue because we need to go into the sandbox and grab a key so that we can connect Claude and start building some stuff.
Yeah, I'm imagining most of our clicks are going to be front loaded right now. Like,
I'm actually going to try again to use the assistant, but I'm going to give it really good instructions because I know exactly where it should go. So we need to create.
Because this was one of the first things that Nico did with these browser-based assistants. Yeah. Because it's a pain in the ass to make a key and click all of the boxes.
To me, this is such the perfect embodiment of that like little kid exercise you used to do of like make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like you tell a kid to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then you tell them to like only follow the instruction. And they just put the jar of jelly and the jar of peanut butter between a slice of bread, and they're like, done. Like you have to really open the jar of peanut butter, put the knife in, put the peanut butter on the knife. Like, hopefully we're getting to a place where it's not going to have to be that painstaking. But for a lot of this initial setup, initial connection stuff, browser based, I'm imagining it will still have to be like that for quite a while.
Yeah. As that's happening, Trisha, I'm curious to hear from you. After last week, what were you most excited to see start happening after we laid the foundation?
I am an inherently lazy person, and there's all kinds of drudge work in HubSpot in my job that I never want to do ever again in my whole life. And so I'm very much looking forward to automating all of the things, as many things, especially those things as possible. I just have had so many bumps along the road to this point where just very, very mixed results. And at the end of the day, it usually ends up costing me more time than I could have done it manually, which is really frustrating. And so this is why I really wanted to join this call, because like, that's me. I'm not you guys. I am not a technical person. I just live in the world of marketing technology. But I don't code. I don't know like I don't do any of that. And I just want to reel people this stuff and be
Mhm.
able to translate what you're doing for the rest of the real people like me. Like, yeah,
Well-
sure, they can do it, but I want everybody to be able to do this. So anyway, there's some gratification for me here, hearing that you're hitting friction as well. Super gratifying, because to your point about silos, Chris, I think there's a whole lot of siloed learning going on right now, where everybody's hitting these friction points, but they tend to only share what's working for them, but not all the things that didn't work along the way. And
Yeah.
I'm here for this part because I want to see the whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
do want to give credit where credit is due. We can always count on Joshua Oakes to tell us exactly when things are going wrong. So we thank him for that. But you're right. And that is the goal. Like, that's why we don't know how long this is going to take. We're just going to go until we get some stuff built. Because, I mean, I'm even fine working through these technical difficulties clearly. Like, because the reality is, I'm guessing that Comet browser is stressing out Ryan's system,
yeah.
and it's freezing his system, and he's having to drop off a couple of times. It happened, once before we started, and that's like, I continue to be impressed, but also like, it's always at the mind. Like, I remember just last year, maybe the year before, like, I would be in Riverside having to manage what was open, right, to make sure. Now I never worry about it. I've got AI systems up. I've got multiple browsers, and it's
Okay,
like,
well, that was me last week. And then I had AI help me build out what I actually need in terms of a new laptop, so that I don't have to micromanage that. I can just be on this call now. But a week ago, I couldn't.
there you go. We need the right tools to take advantage of all this power. And thanks for
There's
watching, sir. Part 1, if you search Value First Platform Data Modeling with AI in LinkedIn, that's probably your best bet. Our LinkedIn Live should come up. So I brought back up the cloud project. And as mentioned last week, based on a lot of business documentation and strategies that are in the knowledge base, I said, this chat started with, go look at the HubSpot, see where we're at with an audit. I'm always confirming, because this is where, I mean, we know HubSpot, even without AI, like, they're just adding like new functions and features everywhere. They move things around.
Yeah.
I'm always checking. That's one recommendation here. But just like any new portal, it's like, are we aligned on current state? Right?
There's
just
a key.
because Claude can access.
Ryan gave us the key. He's not here to give it to us, but he checked.
Yeah, he's here now. Welcome back.
He's
man.
back.
When did I get kicked out? I've been
You
talking to
typed
myself
the 12th word into your Comet browser, and then you froze.
Yeah. And what we just talked about is maybe Comet browsers putting some pressure on your system, causing you to freeze up. But yeah, current state, just because I think that's one of the most common things we've got to like talk about first, is just because AI has access doesn't mean it's going to see it the way that you expect it to. It doesn't mean it's going to see all the things. Remember the first time I plugged in GPT, it like found like 7 records and then just went down the path of like, this is my business strategy. This is my business model. It had nothing to do with the overall like picture. But so we did that here.
I plugged in ChatGPT. It said, great, I can do that for you now. Upload a spreadsheet. export that data from your portal and upload it. And I was like,
What?
isn't this
That's-
what you do?
That's the
And I was
cardinal
definitely
sin.
connected. I was connected. I will validate that. Like, isn't this the point of this integration? And it was
Yeah.
like, absolutely. Now just import the spreadsheet and I'll get going on it.
Yeah, I do think it tends to sometimes grab the most obvious solution over time without understanding that it is the solution. Like I've seen it a few times do that, of being like, yeah, now go do this. I'm like, but this is why I'm using you. And it's like, oh, you're so right. Like, and which is such a weird interaction.
Yeah. Yep. No, I love it. Not really, when it gives me instructions on how to do the thing I'm asking it to do. Yeah. So we went through this, and basically one of the things, again, just like anybody else, I'm confirming the overall HubSpot knowledge, because HubSpot's changing. We know all the training data that it got from the real world. We know the real world pretty much just knows about contacts, companies, and deals.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the same thing you'll run into with these LLMs. They'll very quickly get on board with all of the objects, but you kind of have to point them in that direction. So we ended up with, some mapping of the object flow. This is like the stage and gate version of it. And then we ended up with some documentation, right? The end of most scoping sessions are like, all right, here's the text and specs of what we're going to build, properties and objects and pipelines. So Ryan just gave us a private chat, just gave us the private key. So
How did that go, Ryan? We were all in the dark.
I'll give you the general takeaway is that it didn't work as expected. When we got over to the scopes tab, the checkboxes are not behaving as like the click handler or how you select a checkbox. It was never able to actually select a scope. And so the active state to save the form never displayed. And it tried that 3 or 4 times. And I just said, all right, I'm going to just jump in here. And right now the private app has contact, read, and write permissions only. So if we need to extend it more, I can start clicking away.
And I am pulling up. So we're using Claude Desktop. And I need to grab the config file and replace the key, the private key. And I'm not going to share that key live. So that's why I'm not sharing my screen right now. But in a matter of about 60 seconds here, save this file. And restart Claude.
So we're not counting these as HubSpot clicks because you're in Claude. Ryan, how many HubSpot clicks do you think we're at right now?
7.
7. Okay.
Yeah. Because I had to tell it to navigate to the scopes tab. It couldn't figure out how to get there. Then I had to interfere and set scopes manually.
Okay.
And I'd say I had to, copy and paste that token for people to use. So we're at 7 clicks.
7 clicks.
The assistant is not there to be your admin yet.
No. Especially during setup. Again, the whole that was the dream. And I mean dream and it's not even plausible component of it. It ever being 0 today or this year is probably not going to happen because of the initial setup component. There is a world where it might stay 7 for quite a while now, but like it was never going to be zero to establish the connection.
It's interesting for me, like where I see this potentially going is you as a user of Comet would maybe record your steps, or you would have done it enough times and built enough like experience into the browser where then you can copy and paste that instruction set, and like you don't actually need tools like cloning tools or any of that. You just have this like automation list of things to click.
So
and like
you become the reCAPTCHA of where's the sidewalk crosswalks, and you just click it enough and you're like, these are what radio buttons look like, and it knows.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. So like one pain point that I have is like when you use a custom object and you build stages in that custom object, you don't get by default the date entered and date exited date properties.
Yep.
Imagine where you can explain that concept to Comet one time, and then it knows how to then go in and say, okay, great, here are your pipeline stages, and then I need a date entered and date exited date property for each of them, and like that's the context, and then it goes in and builds those properties, and like it's kind of going between the pipeline stages and then the property creation, and then doing that.
Yeah.
And
then eventually you don't even have to tell it to go do that. It knows that that's a part of the high level prompt of add these 10 stages. It doesn't have to ask you, do you want me to go create these entered and exit? It knows that that is wrapped up. That's the table stakes component of what I'm asking.
yes.
So do you think that there's going to be a version of Hub Helper Harry that has all of this in it at some point? Because you're doing it, I'm doing it, they're doing it. Like we're all teaching our individual systems this. I want to skip. I want to skip the line.
What happens when all of the systems become connected? Because to me, that's the inevitable endpoint. Because otherwise, this kind of goes to that silo discussion of people are experiencing things in silos, people are building things in silos. And then eventually at some point, even potentially unprompted, we can get Nico in here to talk about this, of like, does the AI just decide to connect itself to other things because it knows that it is interconnected?
This is really, I love this too. So I've been reaching out to the HubSpot product team because they need, I don't know if they're doing this, but they need to change the UX to understand how we're working with all of this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to build the system that allows us to work the way that we want to use AI, but also the way that we want to make sure that we're incorporating all the latest features and functionality. And at the rate that they're releasing new features, the old way of us keeping up with that is not scalable.
Yeah.
So there has to be a layer where we can just talk to it and have, this background sort of architecture understanding surfaced, especially with all of us doing all this stuff independently. I want them to do this. Like, it doesn't make any sense for the universe of HubSpot users to be wrangling this all out individually.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm very interested to see.
I do think they will continue to do so because people will put their own biases on it, and they will want their bias, to be built into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely understand what you're saying, and I agree because I want that, like almost that interface change because it does completely change the way I interact with it. But I don't want the old model to go away because I don't want my navigation ability and like understanding ability to atrophy. And then to me, I've loved the idea of this. I'm very pessimistic that it will be very accurate and reliable. And I think a lot of people are going to throw the baby out with the bathwater doing stuff like this. And they're not going to know how to go check and verify that this was doing the thing that it actually wanted to do. And so I don't ever want them to like completely get rid of that or really make it impossible to access, because that trust but verify approach here is the most important thing. I feel like we're opening the door to degrading the quality of administration because people are going to think it's easy and not understand that it did things 80%, but that additional 20% is like really where the human element is needed and where that makes these systems and processes shine and sing. And I just don't want us to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
I have a little mini example of that too, just like working through that process. I was using the AI workflow builder a couple of weeks ago, and it was a very simple prompt. It was a super simple prompt, and it kept on building out a branch when I didn't even need a branch. I just needed an enrollment filter. I'm like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you being so dumb? Well, it was me. Because there was a nuance in the new, like, you know, the new interface for building workflows, in that you can no longer combine property filters and event filters within the same deal. You can't do it in a single enrollment criteria. It was my understanding that was outdated. It
Right.
was trying to show me the new way.
Ah,
And it did end up kind of leading me there, because I was like, why do you keep doing this?
Yeah.
And then when I went and I built it out manually, that was when I
You
finally
understood
understood
where the
that's
error
why
was.
you
Yeah,
did
yeah.
that.
Yeah. There's going to be a natural balance. I think we're already seeing it, right? And I think HubSpot, from their side, they have the pleasure of developing all these AI tools that are always learning. Some of them are proprietary. Some of them are just going to be MCP. And I guarantee, like, what they're going to be able to learn from MCP activity is going to solve for so much of the UX and UI issues that they would have had to figure out in a lot of other, like, direct feedback, like calls with people. And
Yeah.
that's what I look forward to. Like, because with that, only AI has the bandwidth, the ability to look across all that, right? And I think we're already starting to see how fast they can go now, with building more. I just want to highlight here. I said I think we're ready to start building out the new value first data model in HubSpot. How should we get started? And in the knowledge base, it looked at value first collective documentation that we just had up. I also have a PDF from the new show that I'm doing with Pedro Michelazzo, with the winning by design models, right? So I'm not relying on its greater, like, all of the training data about RevOps, like in the history of RevOps and stuff. Like, I have a specific one that I want to adhere to principle wise, and we have the value first principles too, right? So out of the gate, it's comparing those two things specifically. And I didn't tell it what to look for, right? The other thing I want to note is that this project is not built to be an implementer. It's built to help me flesh out the pillar of content and thought leadership around value first platform, right? So there's no special, like, HubSpot, like, situations that you're going to run into. No special, like, how to be an implementer, how to do this in HubSpot instructions in the project instructions. What we do have is some guidance that is the HubSpot native object set, the way that I describe them and their purpose, a portal manifesto, which is about configuration over customization, but no, like, instructions for, like, how to move forward, right?
Yeah.
I'm
I think
not
something
saying it's not a bad idea to do that, but part of the purpose here is, like, got 4 different people. The alignment required to get 4 different people from different, like, backgrounds to, like, agree on exactly how it needs to be done. That's why things take longer. That's how scope creep happens. It's
Mhm.
just due to it ends up with a lot of the challenges that we've experienced. So what I've experienced people try to do is like, all right, let's keep everybody out. Let's just deal with the one person. And then we'll show up with brand new stuff, and all the people that are impacted but were never involved
I hate it.
are somehow going to start using this system that they weren't a part of. And it doesn't work like that. You were saying, Riley?
Something I did just want to call out, just to acknowledge, is that the knowledge base is, you could see all of the lines that Chris was scrolling through with all the cards, and it had, 500 lines in this chat, 1,000 lines in this chat. So there is, a substantial knowledge base built out. But to Chris's point, it's not with detailed instructions of how to be a HubSpot administrator. It's basically been Chris's brainstorming center of gravity for how he's building this concept of value first. So it's worth understanding that. And then if you start to have these ideas of launching your own business or launching your own company, projectize that within one of your AI tools and just start building out your knowledge base there. Because it does have to be a connected base to some extent.
Yep. So he says, let me suggest a strategic starting approach that respects both the value first framework principles and proper HubSpot implementation practices. Foundation first. I like it. Let's start with the discovery and validation phase to ensure we're building on solid ground. Current state assessment, then looking at the business model, portal integration requirements, recommended implementation sequence, starting with the revenue engine. This is where, like, if you let him go deep, like, he's going to go deep right away. Probably deeper than I want him to go. But he's asking me some good questions here. To ensure we build this correctly from the start, can you show me your current object structure and key properties? I can use the HubSpot MCP to examine what's already configured.
And didn't Claude already do that in the audit?
That was in a different chat.
Oh, okay.
And not connected to the sandbox.
Right.
Okay.
So that was Ryan that made the sandbox and made a new key, and I added it to the config file, and now we see conveying a message sandbox.
Which in theory means all four of us could open up our Claude portals and each tackle one of these 4 steps congruently.
Yep. Next episode. Like,
let's just do one. Let's do number 1.
Yeah. Just gonna double check the steps here. Priority revenue streams, team readiness, portal timeline. See, this is where I'm like, dude, you can do it like in a day. Like, get out. If I let him decide the timeline, he'd give me like 90 days, 6 months. Right? That's where a lot of the way it's been done will still show up. Right? So at that point, I'll usually ask for like the AI native timeline, or base it on trust milestones instead of days, right? So who on the team will be managing these day to day? And I'll just say.
So what? This is where I'm going to be the person that continuously falls into the old way of thinking, and you're going to have to keep pulling me out of it if I do it. So let me know if this is me doing that. What is the first primary objective? Is it audit the system and, just general data cleanup, eliminate properties that aren't in use, identify properties that need to be populated more correctly, like present the data model, things like that?
Wait, can I take this? I just want to see if I'm right or not.
I have no idea.
If I've been following along. I think the objective is to build the ideal framework using the value first framework. Like if we tell Claude plus HubSpot to build a framework with all of the guidelines from value first, what is that going to look like? And what does that look like compared to what you have right now?
Right. So do you start at the end, or do you, like, this is me always starting at the beginning, and I think you did a really good point of calling out, like, we could almost start at the end and then see how it connects it.
Well, this is where like we've done a bunch of work up front to get to a scope that we think is appropriate, right? And now, just like when we're not using AI, you start to build that stuff out. You start to get new people coming in and out of the process. Like, oh, this is going to impact, Riley over in shipping. Maybe we should get him in. And then he comes in and is like, that's not how it works at all, folks.
Yeah.
Like, this is actually what I do. And then it's like, all right, I guess we got to change the build. Like,
That's not
and
how
hope
it
we didn't
works.
integrate so far. And just that's why, like, how far can we get? Or like, I believe we can get to like the documentation that we've created. It's a matter of how much does AI, I think to your initial points, Riley, like how many clicks are we saved to get there?
Yeah.
Like our ability to just show up and do it live. Like you can imagine if we were all focused on this at the same time, like how quickly could it actually happen? That's why you start to get rid of time-based milestones. And it's like, as long as everybody in the process trusts what's happening, you can move forward very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So we have here, let me start by examining, and I'll be classic like client here. Let's just get started. We'll get to your questions like as we go, right? Let me start by examining your current HubSpot setup. It asked me for permission and confirming permissions at the same time. Contacts focus permissions. I'm hoping it's just
I don't know what that means.
misreading what the actual scope is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got the portal ID, and I can see we have a fresh sandbox. All right. At this point, I'm already feeling good about things having gone the way we've expected them to. I am worried that we have limited scope permissions focused on contacts.
What's that mean?
Can you double check that for us, Ryan?
Yep.
We got some errors. This is where, like, well, oh man.
Only have access to the contacts object right now. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's believing that it cannot see company objects, deal objects, marketing asks, like anything inside of HubSpot except for contact records.
And that's accurate because I only enabled those manually. I did not go through and check everything.
Okay. So it's right.
Hey,
Yes.
So if you can check through the rest of them, that would be appreciated. I did have a concern pop up. It's like, all right, new sandbox, beta, also sandbox versus production. I've only tested this in
Yeah.
production.
Which, I mean, this is also quintessential consultant, client interaction of like, hey, I need to do this. Hey, you got to share the file with me. You got to make sure I need this access to your system, please.
What is frustrating right now, and this is where you start to take things into your own hands really quickly, is not fully understanding like the token usage and how that works, because I am quite surprised at the moment that I haven't given it any documents and it pinged HubSpot via MCP one time, like through this back and forth. Now I'm going to make an assumption that because it had trouble finding it, it was continually trying and burning up tokens, because I'm super surprised we've already hit the maximum length. And for this conversation, which doesn't really happen in GPT and Gemini, but I am also
I
at a
don't know what
point.
that means. I don't use Claude a lot. Can you explain what that
Yeah,
means?
I'm also at a point where I don't trust any error message that I see at first. So I'm just going to ask You really hit the limit already. Yep. Okay. So token limits, and for Claude, I think it's tightened up because if you've ever been the longest, like if you've seen people with the longest GPT chats like ever, like the one I saw last week had like this, it was like a millimeters of a scroll bar, which means there's lots of stuff that's happened in that chat. But you start to get to the end of that chat and can't remember clearly from the beginning of the chat, starts to pull from different places, and it becomes a lot less valuable in its outputs. In my experience with Claude, the value of the limits is that you never feel that way, because it doesn't let you go far enough for that to happen. Now, one thing that they have
It didn't
done,
let us go far enough.
right? Now, one thing that they have done is they've opened up the knowledge base, and I think I mentioned this a little bit last week, but this used to be 60% based on the same amount of data.
Mm.
And they created a retrieval augmented generation, and it'll show up as soon as I hit 7%, it'll say retrieving. But then it turns into the other situation where if I'm not giving it clear instructions on what to retrieve, and if I don't have like perfect naming conventions over here, it can be very hit or miss. So I brought everything back down to 6%, so that it doesn't have to do that.
Okay.
Now,
Permissions are updated, by the way, so you should have full CRM permissions on that token.
And so the reason you're saying that this occurred, because obviously the scroll bar is about 4 inches, not a millimeter. Like, and there hasn't been a lot of back and forth, that something in the MCP protocol was performing perpetual actions over and over and over and over again that made it hit that limit.
yep,
Okay.
possibly. And we're about to test that because I'm going to start the next chat in the exact same way.
And for context, just also adding to that, so in the logs of that API token, it made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it made 7 GET requests. And then out of those 7 GET requests, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them failed. So really 3 success API calls actually hit the HubSpot account.
All right, so we're just gonna exact same. There's also often when they drop new models, so they just dropped Opus 4.1, and they mess around with limits during those times to manage usage across the platform. I'm usually wider open because I'm in a Teams Claude, so that's like equivalent to the pro levels of things where it's expanded usage. What's interesting, and I haven't figured out how to do this consistently, is that I have another HubSpot where I was gonna turn it into kind of a knowledge base for what's happening in Claude. So my base instructions in the preferences area overall of Claude says like that I want this to happen each time, where I'm gonna add a record for each Claude chat into the HubSpot. And obviously it didn't do this the first time. I have no idea how to like manage when it chooses to do it and when it doesn't, if it's at the beginning or at the end of the chat. I haven't engineered the instructions enough to get consistency there.
Yeah, I've had that experience as well, with something similar to this, where I'm like, do the same thing every time, and it will not figure it out yet.
I've been trying to get it to never produce emojis on my documents, and that does not work.
I told it
always
to
get
never lie to
emojis
me.
on all of my documentation.
Never lie to you. Interesting.
Like, never promise to do something you can't actually do. Not ever. And
Right.
it still tries.
Yeah. So
How'd you do with the emojis?
It didn't work. I still get emojis.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm over here with Claude. As soon as it starts giving me emojis unrelated to the ask, I know I'm in business. I'm getting real life Claude at that point. And he starts throwing fire emojis like everywhere.
Yeah, Claude's very reserved with the emojis. All right, so this is obviously a different response entirely than when you did it in the other chat. There has been updated token access, so in theory, it should have responded differently because it had access to more information.
So we got the different objects here. And let's just get to the assessment, what I've discovered, and then we'll wrap for today. You have comprehensive HubSpot permissions, including custom object creation. You already have a deliverables custom object. So double checking when we hit the sandbox button, it's matching all the objects that exist in the home portal, in the production portal, Ryan?
Yeah, so deliverables is a custom object, but we have more. You have partner clients, customer orders, events, expenses. You have a bunch.
Yep. There's 10. I'm maxed out. So I was curious if it was going to be that. So that's a challenge we'll get to overcome at some point.
Yeah, because what I'm very interested in, Chris, I know we're at time here, but like there's what it knows, and there's what you know, and there's what it shares with us. And all of that's like kind of slightly different. Like in theory, it might know that, but it just hasn't shared it with us, or at least in a way that we're able to understand.
Yeah.
So you're really the kind of verification because you know what's actually fully in the portal intimately. You're really wanting to understand when it says something back. I mean, you reading it versus me reading it, like as the person that it's not the portal of, because I might be doing this for someone else's portal and I might need more information at this response phase or something like that. I mean, the information component is very interesting for me, what it shares when.
Is there any possibility that in looking at your documentation and what's in the portal already, that it's making some decisions of like certain things don't align to your framework and therefore we don't need them?
I think it's definitely leaving those other objects out because it's not in the value first data model document.
Okay.
Right? These are like, because deliverables is the only custom object in that document, like purposefully, right? So it's highlighting all the other stuff that's in there. Then it suggests map current state. See, folks, there's no way around this. Like, we always must start here. Like, if you don't have maps, get ready for us to tell you we got to do a map.
Yeah.
Let's examine your existing contacts and companies' objects to understand current properties and see what value first properties we need to add. And just to give a little bit of payoff,
see,
I'm going to just be an excitable client and say, like, can we just build some new properties already?
Oh, I'm very
I need to get started tomorrow. We need to start using the system.
Boo! Say no, Claude.
Well, see, we're going to run into this. I know my intuition is that the Opus 4.1 drop is playing a role here. I've been able to go back and forth, create like 50 properties, 80 properties in one chat, which is a lot of back and forth through the API. So very curious to troubleshoot like what's happening here. But we know there's going to be some ups and downs as we move forward live, understanding this. But so many variables. We thought there was a lot of variables in play before. Lots of variables in play. Should you choose to go this route? What we're seeing
is so wild. I have to just say that. I don't mean to interrupt you, but like because of the nature of that, we are like dying in a video game, but restarting from a dynamically different point every time. Like it's not like you go back to where we were. We have to start the chat over again, and then it responds differently every time. So it's not like you can kind of do this Edge of Tomorrow repeat thing of like get up to there, figure out what happened, and then navigate around it. It's every existence is a different journey that you have to continue
The
to
multiverse.
yeah,
It's making
it's
us
a multiverse of
multiverse.
interactions. This is wild.
Yes.
I don't like that.
I don't either. I can't get oriented.
So now I can see what happened. And this is where like MCP and AI, even if deep research is on, if there's too much data, there's too much data and you're going to run into problems. Even if it tries to consume it and not hit limits, it can't process it all in the way that we need it to yet at a certain level of volume. So what happened here, like it should have, like, so if we're doing this, we're going in, exporting all the properties and taking an audit of the properties and seeing which ones like we need to add. We probably have already done that to get to the scoping exercise. That's the thing. Like if you're going this route, it's unless you have that documentation, he's going to want to check that every time, which is the right thing to do if you're implementing. So you make sure you're not like duplicating properties. But because of that, like look at the size of this scroll bar, very tiny.
It also,
List
so
all properties, all
it has
properties.
to-
We just highlighted that I have 10 custom objects, right? All of the properties it tried to do, and it hit it's like, nope.
this to me is such a very big key difference between the AI and the human brain, where it's like, in order for AI to get oriented and figure out, it has to see everything to know where to go and where it is, where the human brain kind of can ignore without having the bandwidth capacity component problem, can ignore areas and ignore data, where AI currently has to know of it to decide to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll get back after it next week, but I'd say I just like answered my own argument. Like it's not a 4.1 issue. I'm going to stop reaching for reasons it's not working the way I expected to. And it's like right in front of us, right? Tried to list all the damn properties. There's a lot of properties.
Yeah.
In the portal. It's going to burn up the tokens immediately. So
That
we'll
was
get after it next week. Thanks so much to Riley, Ryan, and Trisha for hanging out and having some fun with me on this journey.
Yeah.
Hope everybody has a great weekend. Thanks.
Thanks.